Hello, Math Humans. We're going to do H1 today. It is our very last video for algebra, and we're going to be solving quadratic equations. The objectives are we're going to use the quadratic formula to solve quadratic equations. So here is our standard quadratic. Y is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. It's a second degree polynomial, which means there are two solutions. So remember, we've been doing work with our quadratics, which means it has two x-intercepts. Well, instead of doing the problem graphically, another way that I can do the formula is by using the quadratic formula. And it's x is equal to a negative b plus or minus. This is what's going to give us these two solutions. And then to the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. The biggest reason that people make mistakes with the quadratic formula is A, they don't write this down, and B, they do it in steps on their calculator. So we're going to show how to do all of these in our calculator doing one step. So for example number 1, it says solve the quadratic using the quadratic formula. So I always write mine down and then substitute my numbers in so I don't make silly mistakes. So this is A, this is B, this is C. So I'm going to do a negative 8 plus or minus, and then I'm going to write 8 squared minus 4 times A times C, and then all over 2 times 2, which is A. So now let's talk about putting this in our calculator. Okay, let me make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. So I'm going to enter the negative 8, and then I'm going to go back into a parentheses. Then I'm going to do my negative 8, and then I'm going to do plus, and then second square root, and I'm going to do 8 squared minus 4 times A times C. Okay, I'm going to get outside, and I'm going to do close parentheses divided by parentheses, just in case you don't want to do that math. 2 times 2, close, go. And so you'll see that I get x is a negative 1.293. Well, I've already entered that once, and the only thing that's going to change is that minus. So I'm going to do second enter, and it's going to bring that operation right back up. I'm going to go over to that, what was a plus or minus, and I'm going to change the positive to a minus and hit enter. And now my second solution is a negative 2.707. So to be efficient with your calculator, all you need to do is enter it once, hit enter, write down the answer, and then do second enter, and it brings that right back up. There's actually a couple of different ways you can get that. And all I'm going to do is go in and edit that that second sign. Okay? So now let's do another example, super short today. So here's example number 2. I'm going to keep it zoomed in a little bit just so you can see my calculator better. So now on this one it says solve the quadratic using the quadratic formula. But notice that my 1 is on the opposite side of the equation. So to be able to solve a quadratic, I need to do 6x squared minus 4x, and I'm going to subtract 1 by moving this to the other side so that I have a 0 on the right-hand side. And now this is my A, this is my B, and this is my C. I'm going to write down x is equal to a negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And now I'm going to substitute in what I know. Notice I have a negative b. My b is already negative, so that's going to be a positive 4, plus or minus, and then it's 4 squared minus 4 times a times c. Make sure that you're careful with your signs, all over 2 times 6. So let's go in and enter that in our calculator. So I'm going to do 4, and I'm going to do, except I'm going to put it in parentheses, 4 plus the square root, 4 squared minus 4 times 6 times a negative 1. Notice that I used the negative down on the bottom and not the subtract. Outside the radical, close, divided by open, 2 times 6, close, go. And I get for my equation, I got that x was equal to 0.860. And remember, to make my life easier, I'm going to do second enter, and then I'm going to go back to the sign right before the radical. I'm going to change that to a subtract, and I'm going to hit enter, and I get that x is also equal to a negative 0.194, okay? And that's it. It's really super simple when you use your calculator. Alrighty. So the next thing that I want to show you is I'm going to take that equation and I'm going to put it in my calculator, 6x squared minus 4x minus 1, and I'm going to do a zoom 6, just to show you that I get the same answers. So there's the parabola we were just working with, and I'm going to check second calculate 0, and I'm going to start on the left, enter, and I'm going to go to the right, enter, enter. And notice that my calculator says I got this value right here, which is really nice because I got the same value either on my calculator from the graph or using the quadratic formula. On a test, you'll be told which method to use. If you're not told, then you get to solve it however you so choose. So then just to verify that other one, I'm going to do second calculate 0. So now my left is right there. Cross over, enter, enter, and it says that my second one is 0.860. So, to illustrate a point, there are lots of different ways that I can solve a quadratic. So we've been talking about solving a quadratic graphically, which means I need to find the x-intercepts, or I need to find the zeros, sorry, that's a z. And remember, when I do that, I'm always going to graph, and then I'm going to label those 2 points. So this would have been a negative 0.194 and the 0.860. I'm going to skip this one for a moment. If I do the quadratic formula, I need to show the math that I've done to set up solving the equation. Okay? You can't just have a miraculous answer and not show work. So this is your work, and then I report my answers 0.860 and a negative 0.194. Okay? In this particular class, we have not talked about factoring, which is your favorite F word, but factoring is another means of solving a quadratic formula. All right, my dears, that is it for today. Yay, hallelujah, last video for this year. See you tomorrow.